James Madison, father of the Constitution. The Constitutional Convention was a group of 55 men who came together to fix the Articles of Confederation. They had a plan that would alter the history of this country forever. Rather than amending the Articles of Confederation, their goal was to make a constitution that would become the supreme law of the land. Arriving early to this group, James Madison started devising a plan with the other Virginia delegates for a completely new government. When the first day of the convention came around, on May 25, 1787, the Virginia plan was complete. This plan was to have a bicameral national legislature, national judiciary, and a national executive. The two houses in the legislature would be the House of Representatives and the Senate. James Madison's notes on Tuesday, May 29, 1787, described how the states would be represented in the houses. Resolved, therefore, that the rights of suffrage in the national legislature ought to be proportioned to the quotas of contribution, or to the number of free inhabitants, as one or the other rule may seem best in different cases. This plan prompted many discussions. Smaller states wanted no proportional houses, but bigger states wanted them. The southern states wanted to count enslaved people. It seemed as if no one would agree. After much deliberation, the Connecticut plan was proposed by Roger Sherman. In it, the lower house would be proportioned, and the upper house would have the same number of senators for every state. This was known as the Great Compromise. Once the Constitution was finally agreed upon by the delegates, it had to be shown to the people, who would end up being the deciding power as to what the agreements between the states would be. A huge factor in the decision were the Federalist Papers by James Madison, John Jay, and Alexander Hamilton. Together, they wrote 85 papers that would explain what the Constitution would be and showed why it was the best type of government. In Federalist Paper number 44 by James Madison, it was written, "The question, therefore, whether this amount of power shall be granted or not, resolves itself into another question, whether or not a government commensurate to the exigencies of the Union shall be established, or, in other words, whether the Union itself shall be preserved." After these papers, the Constitution was signed. James Madison was a huge contributor to the developments of the U.S. Constitution. His Virginia plan was the basis for the Great Compromise, and his notes were very helpful for historians. While he was short and quiet, according to John Marshall at his deathbed, eloquence has been defined as the art of persuasion. If it included persuasion by convincing, Mr. Madison was the most eloquent man I ever heard. Including his Federalist Papers, he is sure to be the father of the Constitution. Thanks to his brilliant ideas, we were able to have the government that we have today, and we're able to unite the states.